Hello everybody and welcome to Quality Sewing and Vacuums. How do I today? I'm Andrea and today we are going to talk about how to do French seams and why you want to do French seams and where do you do French seams. So today we're going to talk about a variety of things from pillowcases to fancy ball gowns. And you're probably thinking, wow, a French seam can go in a pillowcase? Why, yes. A French seam is a really fantastic tucked in seam that has no raw edges, and it tucks everything in, and it kind of really reinforces those seams. But I really love them inside of a pillowcase because the inside of a pillowcase gets a lot of wear and tear with the pillows going in and out and in and out of the pillowcases. So we're going to get started with that. I have a little mock-up of a pillowcase right here, and then I also happen to be working on a ball gown that's made out of organza. So we're going to be working on some cotton and some organza today. We're going to move over to the overhead camera and I will show you some more in-depth what we need to be working on here and how you do the French seam. So a French seam is where you sew the seam 2 times. See, where are we? Oh, we're right there. Okay, so what you want to do first, I've got my pillowcase right here, and you can see my finished edge right here. This is the wrong side of my fabric, and this is the right side of my fabric. And the first thing you want to do, and keep in mind, is that the first stitch you do, it feels backwards. In the sewing world, when you want to start doing a project, you sew by putting the 2 seams together, right sides together, right? But in this case, we are going to be putting the wrong sides together, and that's the first stitch that we are going to do. So this is my mock-up of a pillowcase right here. So this is the finished edge, like I said, and then we are just going to really quickly stitch around the edge right here. Now, if I use a 5/8 of an inch of a seam to go around this edge here, I'm going to use about half of that, and I'm going to sew this at 1/4 of an inch for this first stitch on the opposite way that it feels. If it feels wrong, you're doing it right. Okay, let's go over to the machine right here. I've got my machine set up at 1/4 with my 1/4 of an inch foot right here, and on the FOF, what I really love about these machines is you can set it up so it does a stitch and a cut. So that's what I have it set up as. So I just start sewing and it does the first knot for me. Oh, except it was set to stop it. No, I don't want to stop it. I want to get it going. There we go. Now we're going to get it started. Okay, so we are just going to zip it along here at 1/4 of an inch. And the reason why you want to do it at the half length is because we are going to be folding it inside of itself. So all these raw edges right here that we are stitching, let me even those up a little bit right there. All these raw edges are going to be tucked inside of another stitch. I've got my iron all set up because we're going to be doing some ironing here in a second. But because cotton and a pillowcase is, you don't have to be super particular about the edges on a pillowcase. I'm not going to be doing too much specialty ironing, but when it comes to the organza, we are going to be doing some specialty sewing there. Okay. I'm also trying to see if I can speed up my sewing machine at the same time. This is a new version, and so I'm looking for that speedy one. Okay, press that button and voila, it's going to knot it and cut it for me. Okay, back over to the overhead here. Alrighty then. So we just stitched all the way around here with the wrong sides together and the right side is out and all these raw edges are hanging out there, right? It feels totally wrong. If you're a sewist, it feels weird and wrong. But we're going to go back through. We're going to trim up those edges really fast. Right, like so. I like to trim it down about halfway, so it's about 1/8 of an inch. And it doesn't have to look perfect in this case because this is solid fabric and you're not gonna see it inside. But like anything like these long stringy things, you definitely want to make sure that you trim those off because you don't want those sticking out of the seam, because we are going to tuck in all these raw edges into another seam that we stitch here in a second. All right, trimming that super fast. I've got some nice sharp Kai scissors. You want to make sure that whatever scissors you do that you use are nice and sharp. Okay, so the next thing that we want to do, now we are going to flip your pillowcase, or in this case you could be doing like a rayon or a challis or something, silky fabrics, doing the same technique inside of like a little jacket that has no lining in it. This is a beautiful finish for inside of there. I'm just poking out those little corners there. I'm going to use my little tool here to help me. All right. And next, because these are nice and flat, and it's a pillowcase, so I'm not super worried about what exactly it looks like, my perfect edges. This is going to be a little pillow for my daughter's bed. She'll be thrilled. Little pillowcase. Okay. Now we'll put this here, just making sure that that seam goes right out onto the edge. I'm not sure if you can see that, but my edge is right there, right on the edge. We're just gonna seam iron that down. You can use some steam if you like. Steam is always super great to help those fibers in your fabric to change and stay where you want them to. And another tool that I love to use when I'm using some steam is a wooden clapper. You can just clap that down and the wood will absorb the extra moisture and the extra heat. I'm gonna finish up this little spot right here. Little steam there. Ooh, very fantastic. We're almost done. And you can use the same technique, like I said, with your jackets. This is a pillowcase in this case. All right. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go back over that edge right here. And what you want to do, not sure if we can zoom in a little bit more, but I'm going to grab my tool here. You can see the edge underneath here, and you want to stitch on the very outside of that. You don't want any of those little fibers from the raw edges poking through after you stitch it. So this is about 1/2 inch right there. So we're going to go back to the sewing machine. We will stitch this really quick. Just like that. I'm using about the width of my foot here, this outside part of my foot. So I make sure that I miss all those little raw edges inside of there. You just zip it down right along here. And then we're going to encase all of those little raw edges. This makes such a beautiful finish. Like I said, inside a jacket, your friends and family will be so impressed by how fantastic it looks, because It's even better than serging or using your pinking shears. And what I love about this stitch is it really reinforces the seams. And so like I said with this pillowcase, it's going to really help to reinforce those seams that get a lot of wear and tear on them. Kind of like in the organza that I'm going to be using here in a second. It's going to be a ball gown, and I wanted to reinforce some of the seams, and I wanted to make sure none of them tore. Okay, so fantastic. Just like that, this is the inside of my pillowcase, and always make sure that you trim off your extra little threads there. And got those. And that's the inside. That's the inside of your pillowcase. Isn't it so beautiful? And you don't have to worry about any of your serging coming undone. You don't have to look at any ugly raw edges or worry about any of that. And you can get that wear and tear. You can give it a good iron if you want to make that pillowcase look nice and beautiful. I mean, if this was a jacket, you would go back and iron down those seams and make it look fantastic, because you always want to press your seams. But you get the basic idea of how this works with a pillowcase, how the seams inside are just as beautiful as the seams on the outside. And then if you did your jacket like this as well, it would look so pretty and so finished. So let's go over to the organza. I'm going to bring it over here. I'm going to switch out fabrics here really quick. And organza is kind of a different beast. It's very similar, but in this case, I had, see if I can open this up for you. I have two panels here that are going to go into my skirt, and then there's a ruffle at the end of each of these right here. And I've already done my French seams through here already, and you can see how beautiful these edges look because the fabric is sheer. And this is a really great technique to do when you're working with your sheer fabrics. And as you can see, you can do the French seam on the curve as well, especially when you use those narrow seams, because on the curve, the narrower you make it, the more it turns into a bias, and that way it will turn with you. Okay, so I finished those two, but together, we're going to finish this one seam that I have right through the middle here. So this is actually the right side of this panel and the right side of this panel. And on the back, you can see this is the wrong because it has the little edge right here. Okay, so I put both of those together, wrong sides together, so this raw edge is on the outside, right? It's that total feeling like you're sewing it wrong at the very beginning. So my raw edge is right here, and my finished edges are right here. So I went ahead and I sewed that seam already all the way down, so you don't have to sit and watch me do that. And then I started trimming it up to that 1/4 inch. So we're going to finish trimming it up the 1/4 inch right here. Right like that. Just be very careful. Make sure you have some beautifully sharp scissors when you do this, so your seams come out nice and smooth. And you always want to make sure that you double and triple check what you are doing because it really stinks to get it this far, trim it up, and realize that you sewed it the right way first instead of the wrong way and have to pick it out. So if it feels the wrong way for the first stitch, you're doing it right to do French seams. Okay, then when you do these beautiful thin fabrics like this, the first thing that you want to do is you want to take your iron and you're going to press the sides down along one side, right like this. And organza is like chiffon or any fun, fancy, fussy fabric. You want to take your time and make sure that it's doing the right thing. It's going the right way because it likes to bubble. And then I'm going to take my wooden clapper and we're going to press it down. Okay, we've pressed the seam to one side. And then the next step that we're going to do for our fine fabrics is you're going to press it. You're going to fold this over to get that really sharp line, right like this. Pressing it over to one side first is going to help you find that sharp line. I'm going to start here. You can add a little bit of steam in. That will help to mold those fibers to do the shape that you want. All right, it's looking great. I'm going to grab my clapper here and just press over that seam again, just like so. Make sure that it's making the right shape that I want. Because when we press it really well, it makes it super easy to just take it right to the machine and stitch it down. Okay, we're going to finish up right here. I've already done the lower part of the skirt, the other half of this line right here, just so we can speed up the process a little bit. All right, organza, work with me here. Okay. Beautiful. This is looking amazing. Okay, I'm going to take my wooden clapper here and once again press that down. All right, and this, so we can make sure, it's always good to double check what you're doing to make sure that you're doing it right. And just to make sure I've got, this is the wrong side of my fabric because I've got this edge that's sticking up there. So when I stitch this down, this also will have the edge sticking towards the back. Let's go over to the sewing machine. All right. I am going to put a couple of my little satin pins here, just throughout some of the spaces. Ooh, that's very magnetic-y. I don't know if that's a word. I think I just made that up. Those little pins are very magnetic. Okay, just gonna throw a couple in there just to make sure that it's staying. But look at it, it's, once we pressed it, it's really staying really beautifully. And because I cut it down to about 1/8 of an inch, I can sew this at 1/4 of an inch. And I'm going to use some of my stitchy sticks right here. I love these tools. These are the coolest tools ever. Okay. And I'm also going to show you, we're going to get this started, but I'm going to show you how to sew on fussy fabrics like organza and chiffon and rayon, all of those fabrics that want to start fraying. You see, I've got about 1 inch where I can pull it from the back. I'm not actually going to pull it. I'm just going to hold it taut. I'm going to put the fabric here and hold it taut behind the foot and in front and stitch a little bit like so. And then I'm going to release, and I'm actually from behind, I'm actually grabbing where the stitching is. I'm not grabbing the fabric itself, I'm grabbing the stitching, and then I'm going to hold kind of the stitching on this front part. So I'm holding the fabric taut, but the machine is pulling the fabric through, and this is how you're going to get beautiful flat stitches when you're stitching through your fussy fabrics. All right, let's keep going here. as we stitch along. This is going to be so fun. This is 2 of the 10 panels that I that I chose to do. It's going to be glorious when it's all done, but just remember, whenever you choose to do fun, glorious, fussy fabrics like this, you want to take your time as you stitch along. Now, if you can see from the back here, I'm actually just taking a little pinch up right along the stitching as the fabric starts to get super long. So I'm holding the stitching itself and not the fabric. Keeping going. Now, this is a cool feature of this sewing machine. I tapped the foot once and that put the needle down and the foot up because I'm coming to the little ledge right here. And I want to make sure that I don't accidentally stitch it going the wrong way. So I'm going to use my stitchy stick to make sure that it's down. This little flap is going down, going facing up that way. And then I'm going to take out this pin right there. I'm going to do a couple of stitches right over this lumpy part, and then I'm going to grab the stitching behind, grab the fabric in front, and we're going to keep going. And our lines are coming out beautiful. This is going to be a fabulous dress. I only have 8 more of these to do to make this gloriousness. This dress is going to be the Mary Poppins dress from when she jumps into Bert's chalk painting. Okay, and then I'm going to have it end right there. I'm going to have it cut. Oh, beautiful. This is amazing. Look at how beautiful that came out. So flat, so nice. I'm going to take out those pins. And this is the inside of our dress. Doesn't it look as beautiful on the inside? Look at how clean and nice these seams are. Since all of those little raw ends are tucked inside, we don't have to worry about it fraying or coming undone. So this is the inside of our organza, and this is the outside of our organza. And look at how beautiful and clean all of those lines look. I only have 8 more to do of these, and it'll be fabulous. So anyways, so this is really fantastic. This technique is really great to do with any loose weave fabrics, like if you're making like a scarf jacket or a scarf itself, you'll want to use this technique. So anyways, thank you so much for joining us today. Let's see, where am I going? Here? Thank you so much for joining us today for learning how to sew a French seam. I hope that you have a lot of fun working with your French seams, whether it's in something as simple as a pillowcase or something as glorious as a evening gown. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you next Tuesday.